It seems my number was skipped. What do you keep complaining about? You're at the end of the line. We have to prioritize the quiet and patient customers, don't we? However, no matter how long I waited, my number was never called. In the end, I was made to wait for 5 hours. To top it off, they told me the counter was closed. Finally, I lost my temper. "Hey, you haven't finished my transaction," I said, slamming my passbook on the counter. "Oh, right. I forgot about the complaining old man," he said with a smirk. "I'm withdrawing $390 million from my business account. Handle it immediately." "I've been waiting for 5 hours." "5 hours? You must have a lot of free time, old man. And $390 million? Big talk, old man." While saying this, he checked the passport. Then, the next moment, he burst out laughing and said with a grin, "Your small-time business has a balance of $30. Where's this $390 million you're talking about? What are you looking at? I can't deal with you anymore. Bring me the bank president. My name is Steve Miller. I'm 60 years old. After graduating from college, I got a regular job at a company. But being a salaryman didn't suit me, so I quickly quit and started my own business. Fortunately, the company is stable. And although I've stepped down as president, I'm still actively working as chairman. However, lately, I've been thinking about retiring and spending my remaining years doing what I love. That said, I've pretty much done what I like throughout my life. I got married and was blessed with 2 sons. Both sons are now adults with families of their own. I've been lucky to see the faces of my 4 grandchildren. Grandchildren are incredibly adorable, especially my first grandchild, who is 5 years old. He is good at talking now, and tells me all about the things happening in kindergarten and his favorite foods. The time spent with my grandchildren is very precious. My wife, who has been with me for 34 years, and I still get along well, and now that we've finished raising our kids, we enjoy going on hot spring trips together whenever we find the time. I've always preferred simplicity over anything flashy, so my clothing tends to be plain and modest. I do dress sharply in a suit for work, but my wife often says there's too much of a gap between my work mode and my usual self. But isn't that just how it goes? Wearing stiff clothes all the time is tiring. One peaceful day, my 5-year-old grandson asked me to take him to a sushi restaurant. The sushi place is in the area where my eldest son's family lies. It's a small spot with only counter seats, but the taste is top-notch. I'm also a regular there. We sat at the back of the counter. My grandson loves sushi, but being so young, his favorites are simple items like omelette and steamed shrimp. While ordering these for him, a man dressed sharply in a suit and a woman who seemed to be his girlfriend entered the restaurant. The chef's hearty welcome echoed through the place, and the couple sat in the middle seats. "Hey, David, you're with your girlfriend today." "Yeah, it's her birthday." "I'll leave it to you. Make something fresh and special for us," said David, who also seemed to be a regular. I hadn't met him before. While preparing the omelette sushi my grandson ordered, the chef responded with a cheerful "sure" and placed 2 pieces of omelette sushi in front of my grandson. My grandson exclaimed, "Wow," and eagerly bit into the omelette sushi. Next, the chef made the steamed shrimp and placed it in front of my grandson again. When David snapped at the chef, "Hey, chef, where's our sushi? Make ours before you make sushi for a kid who can't even appreciate it." What a selfish thing to say. Saying a kid can't appreciate sushi is just rude. I was quietly seething inside. Even so, this customer ordered first. "Please wait a moment," the chef replied sensibly. Then David's girlfriend chimed in loudly, "David, I'm hungry." It seemed she agreed with him and wasn't going to stop him. She's hungry too. Forget about those poor customers and prioritize our order. I graduated top of my class from an elite university and work at a major bank. I'm well paid and part of the upper class. Plus, my bank finances this restaurant. Show some hospitality. If you disregard us, I can cut off your funding anytime. What a show-off this young man is. I was laughing internally, but seeing the chef in a bind, I said, "It's fine to serve our sushi later. Feed that hungry couple first." Then David turned his eye towards me. "Hey, old man over there, Calling us a hungry couple is rude. Do you know who I am? I'm a bank employee. I'm the one who approves your loans. Watch your mouth. But I guess a poor guy like you wouldn't even pass a loan review, right? It's quite something to call a stranger poor. However, I can't argue and fight in front of my grandson, so I bit my tongue. The chef then swiftly prepared sushi for the couple, leaving them with no room for complaints, and quickly set their bill. After they left, peace returned to the restaurant. The chef, as a gesture of apology, prepared 2 special items for me and also served my grandson his favorite omelette and steamed shrimp. The chef had done nothing wrong, so there was no need for an apology from him. We commiserated over dealing with rude customers. That guy is an employee of the bank that loaned us money for the restaurant expansion. He started coming here frequently since then and always demands priority. I see. I thought he was an old regular. No, he's not. He's a nuisance to other customers. Honestly, I wish he wouldn't come at all. The chef's true feelings slipped out. Despite the commotion, my grandson enjoyed his favorite sushi and was delighted, which was a relief. About a week later, I had to visit the first branch of Aita Bank. I intended to deposit the New Year's gift money I kept for my grandson into his account. While I was at it, I planned to inquire about opening a new corporate fixed deposit account. Since it didn't feel like a work-related errand, I didn't wear a suit and dressed casually. Usually, I use the main branch, but since I was staying at my eldest son's house, I decided to go to the first branch nearby. Even though a different branch, the account services should be the same, so I thought I'd ask when I had the time. Aita Bank is known for its kind and attentive service. However, the moment I stepped into the first branch, I felt like a stranger. There was nothing specifically different, but the atmosphere felt unpleasant. I quickly realized the reason for my discomfort. As the automatic door opened, I locked eyes with the bank teller, and his gaze was cold. Moreover, it was a familiar face. It was David, the arrogant guy from the sushi restaurant. The placard on the counter confirmed it. David Williams. So he works at this bank. Remembering David's attitude at the sushi place, I felt a wave of disappointment. I had assumed that all the employees at Aita Bank were wonderful people. However, David's face was void of any smile, and he wore a constant scowl while dealing with customers. No wonder the atmosphere felt off. Still, since I had come all the way, I took a number and decided to wait. But no matter how long I waited, my turn didn't come. With nothing else to do, I observed the inside of the branch. The first branch didn't seem very large, and there were only a few service counters. Moreover, today David was the only teller handling customers. There was another employee who seemed to be a teller, but they were dealing with a customer at the back counter, likely a significant client. Additionally, 3 female employees were inside the counter area, but they didn't seem to handle customer service. Still, my number wasn't called. It might be understandable that the service is slow with just one person handling everything. Thinking this, I decided to wait patiently. I killed time by checking economic news on my phone, but it was still too much idle time. I kept waiting, and finally, the number right before mine was called. Oh, finally, my turn is next. But just as I thought that, the next number called was after mine. A young woman sitting next to me stood up and headed to the counter. I couldn't help but let out a sound. Usually, I'm a patient person, but I had to check this time. Excuse me, it seems my number was skipped. Oh, the order can change depending on the procedure. Just keep waiting, old man. Calling me old man again made me think. Now that I think about it, he called me old man at the sushi place too. His rude language made me irritated, and to make matters worse, David responded while looking down and working, not even glancing my way. Indeed, the order can sometimes change based on the procedure. That's possible. But what was with that tone? I couldn't shake off the irritation. Yet there was no other employee who seemed available to help, so I had no choice but to wait. After a while, I really needed to use the restroom, so I stepped away from the counter for a bit. When I returned, more numbers had been called than I expected. I wondered if my number had been called while I was away, so I went back to the counter to check. Excuse me, my number. Before I could finish, David answered, "You're annoying, old man. We haven't called you at all. Just wait quietly." I was stunned. I couldn't believe such a response was acceptable. It was incredibly rude. As I continued to wait, I noticed something. An elderly person who was already here when I arrived was still sitting and waiting. However, younger people seemed to be called much quicker. It appeared they were prioritizing younger customers over the elderly. My irritation from earlier only grew, and I went back to David to demand an explanation. "Excuse me, is the numbering system not working? It seems like the elderly are being served much slower." "What? It's you again. Old folks like you have plenty of time, so you can wait. Young people come here during their work breaks. They're busy, unlike you. Got it? Now go wait over there. You're bothering the other customers." David said this dismissively, clearly annoyed. Even so, elderly people can be busy too. Besides, everyone has been waiting quite a long time. Could you please serve us in order? I spoke as calmly as possible, trying not to show my anger. However, David responded, "You're an annoying old man. If you don't want to wait, you can leave. Your transaction amount is probably tiny anyway. You could use the ATM, but you come here because you don't know how to use it, which makes more work for us since you're bothering us with small amounts. Just wait quietly." "Wait, weren't you that poor guy at the sushi restaurant the other day? Are you here for a loan? We can't give you a loan anyway. It's still not your turn, so just wait." I let out a deep sigh. David not only treated customers rudely, but also discriminated based on their perceived status. I was furious with his arrogant attitude. Though it's true that I often rely on tellers at the main branch because I don't fully understand how to use the ATM. Am I causing trouble by doing that? I sat down in the waiting area again, deciding to wait. I marveled at my own patience for waiting despite being treated this way. Maybe it was partly out of stubbornness. Finally, as the closing time for the counter approached, customers of my generation started being called. However, my number was skipped again. I went back to David at the counter once more. It seems my number was skipped. "What? You're so annoying. You keep complaining, so you're at the end of the line. We have to prioritize the quiet and patient customers, right? Isn't that right, folks?" David said this, seeking agreement from the elderly waiting in the seats. The men and women of my generation who had been waiting for a long time gave wry smiles. Indeed, they had been waiting quite a while too. I decided to stop arguing and sat back down in the waiting area. However, no matter how long I waited, my number was never called. In the end, I was made to wait for 5 hours. To top it off, they announced that the counter was closing. I finally lost my patience. I decided to act on the thoughts I'd been having for a while. I stopped David as he was about to leave the counter and said, "Excuse me, you haven't finished my transaction." I said, slamming my passbook on the counter. "Oh right, I forgot about the complaining old man," David said with an obviously fake forgetfulness. "I'm withdrawing $390 million from my corporate account. Handle it immediately. I've been waiting for 5 hours. 5 hours? You must have a lot of free time, old man," David said while checking the passbook. Then, the next moment, he burst out laughing and said with a grin, "This small-time business has a balance of $30. Where's this $390 million you're talking about? I can't find it anywhere." "What are you looking at?" I said. "My corporate account." "That passbook is my grandson's savings account. I can't deal with you anymore. Bring the bank president here. You're the one who handed me this passbook," old man David retorted. "I came here today because my grandson asked me to deposit his New Year's gift money and to discuss the fixed deposit for my corporate account." "Oh, I see. No need to brag. You don't have $390 million anyway. You want me to call the president? Who do you think you are? The president is too busy to deal with someone like you," David continued, mocking me with a sneer. "Enough is enough. Just call the president. Tell him Steve is asking for him, and he will come right away." "Yeah, right, old man," David said as he walked to the back. He was probably going to talk to the branch manager from the back room. The branch manager appeared with a puzzled look on his face. I could easily guess how David had explained the situation. When David pointed at me and the branch manager recognized my face, he became visibly flustered. Ignoring David, who was still trying to explain something, the manager rushed straight over to me. "Mr. Miller, I deeply apologize for my subordinate's rudeness. Oh, Mr. Johnson, I haven't seen you at the main branch lately, and now I see you've become the branch manager here. Congratulations on your promotion. It's been a while. Thank you for all your help at the main branch. I apologize for not greeting you sooner. Please come to the back room." The branch manager, knowing the storm that was about to unfold, tried to guide me to a separate room. Since I was the last customer, there was no one else in the bank. "I think there's no need to go to another room, Mr. Johnson. This is a bit beyond you. Call the bank president." I've been asking that teller to do so, but he's been ignoring me. When I looked at David, he stood there with a sullen expression. "I am truly sorry." The branch manager repeatedly apologized. David just stood there with his mouth open, staring. The other tellers also stopped their work and watched the situation unfold. "I will handle this matter with the utmost sincerity, so please let's not involve the president." The branch manager, worried about his own position, hesitated to contact the president. Seeing this was getting nowhere, I decided to call the president myself. "Hello, Mr. Brown. Sorry to bother you, but could you come to the first branch of Arasha Bank? I need to close a $390 million corporate account." Even though I wasn't on speakerphone, Mr. Brown's loud exclamation of "What?" echoed throughout the bank. I turned to the branch manager and said, "Mr. Brown is nearby and will be here shortly." The branch manager slumped his shoulders in defeat. "Old man, how do you even have the president's contact info? Are you just pretending to call him to act superior to us? Don't worry. The president isn't coming." "Who said I wasn't coming?" "What? He's here." Mr. Brown entered the bank with a furious expression. "Chairman Steve, what is this sudden talk about closing your account?" I was appalled by the service from this teller, David. After making me wait endlessly, he tried to close the counter without assisting me. I waited for 5 hours. His attitude is unacceptable, and his language is disrespectful. As much as I appreciate all you've done for me, Mr. Brown, I can't keep my assets in a bank that employs such people. I'm sorry, but I need to close my corporate account. Chairman Steve, I deeply apologize for the rudeness of our employee. I'm truly sorry. Please, just this once, reconsider. David, apologize. How could you behave so poorly to such an important customer? What David said next left me stunned. Well, this person has been a frequent complainer and was bothering other customers. He pointed at me as he said this. I was speechless at David's audacity to blame a customer who had patiently waited. Then one of David's colleagues, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "No, David, Steve didn't complain at all. He'd only asked why his number was skipped. I was busy assisting other customers and couldn't help. I'm very sorry." "Mike, don't say unnecessary things. You're making me look bad." David snapped. "Your behavior today has been unacceptable. You always change your attitude based on the customer. I don't think that's right. Don't lecture me, you third-grade college grad." David and Mike began arguing, and the branch manager had to step in to stop them. "David, have you been consistently prioritizing customers based on your preferences?" "That's right. When the manager isn't here, it's always like this. Usually I step in to prevent customer complaints, but I couldn't today, and I'm deeply sorry." "There's no need for you to apologize. You've been doing your job well." "What do you mean, acting all high and mighty?" David's arrogant behavior towards the customers was now exposed to both the branch manager and the president, and he turned away. "Sir, the branch manager, Johnson, had only been assigned to this first branch 6 months ago. He trusted David and Mike, who had been working here longer, to handle the work. David was known for his ability to impress his superiors and was seen as a polite and capable employee. However, to his colleagues and juniors, he was arrogant, flaunting his elite university background and constantly looking down on them. The president and branch manager were shocked to learn David's true nature. Chairman Steve is one of our most valuable clients. He's the famous chairman of the Hamaya Group. He's also been very successful in stock trading. with a total asset of over $1 billion. It's no exaggeration to say Chairman Steve's support is vital to Arasha Bank. Normally, I wouldn't even be worthy of his company, but because of his character, we are also golf buddies. How could you treat such an important customer and friend of mine so poorly? If Chairman Steve closes his account, it would be a huge loss for our bank. David's face turned visibly worried. What? This old man? No way. Watch your mouth. But David seemed to have some nerve. But it's his fault. If he's the chairman of a corporate group, he should dress like one. If he comes dressed so shabbily, of course, I'll just think he's some old man. Someone like me, an elite, should dress the part. So you judge people by their appearance? That's my style. But it's shameful to change your attitude based on how someone looks. David, how can you talk to Chairman Steve like that? You're a disgrace to this bank. If Chairman Steve closes his account, you're definitely fired. When David heard the word fired from the president, his attitude changed completely. What? No, that can't happen. I dream of becoming the president someday. Oh, I mean Chairman Steve, I'm terribly sorry. Please don't close your account. I swear this won't happen again. Please. David, was it? I don't believe you're truly remorseful. I can't keep my company's assets in a bank with such employees. I will close the $390 million corporate account and move it to another bank. This is final. Please proceed with the account closure. The president and branch manager slumped in defeat, looking dazed. David, realizing the gravity of the situation, started looking nervously between the president and the branch manager. I understand, so you're closing the account. However, preparing $390 million immediately is impossible. We'll contact you as soon as it's ready. Please bear with us. Understand. I will await your call. A while later, I received a call from President Brown informing me that the $390 million was ready. I went to the main branch of Arasha Bank. Chairman Steve, I deeply apologize for the rudeness of our employee. The $390 million from your corporate account has been transferred to the designated bank, and the account closure process is complete. The president looked visibly pale, and his voice lacked its usual energy. Normally, he's quite cheerful, but now he seemed overwhelmed by the loss. I see. Thank you. What happened to David? Actually, David insisted on personally apologizing to you today, so he is here at the main branch. Could you possibly give him a chance to apologize? I see. If he made the effort to come here, it would be rude not to meet him. Please let him in. Thank you. When the branch manager, Johnson, standing next to the president, opened the back door, David and a woman followed him into the room. I deeply apologize for my rudeness to you, Chairman Steve, and for causing such significant damage to Arasha Bank. I am truly sorry. The woman standing a step behind David also slumped down simultaneously. David seemed genuinely remorseful, but I was more intrigued by the woman with him. I understand. I hope for better behavior from you in the future, David. By the way, who is this lady? Oh, I apologize for not introducing her earlier. This is my daughter. Actually, David is my son-in-law, Chairman Steve. I am truly sorry for what happened. My daughter insisted on apologizing alongside him. Oh, I see. I was surprised and compared the woman at the sushi restaurant with this woman before me in my mind. However, they seemed entirely different. The president's daughter had an air of refinement, with delicate features and a modest amount of makeup, giving a clean and pure impression. The woman with David at the sushi restaurant wore flashy clothes and heavy makeup. Their facial features were also different. I decided to ask the president's daughter directly, "Excuse me, but didn't we meet at the sushi restaurant the other day? I was there with my grandson. It was your birthday, wasn't it?" The president's daughter tilted her head, clearly having no idea what I was talking about. Then David, looking flustered, jumped in. "Oh, well, that was." He gestured for me to zip my mouth. So the woman he brought to the sushi restaurant wasn't his wife. I was now certain. "David," I called out. "Yes," he responded, almost jumping. "What is the meaning of this?" Well, the president's daughter said she hadn't been to a sushi restaurant recently and that her birthday was still far off. David was dragged out of the room by his ear by the president's daughter. Actually, since David is my son-in-law, I've been struggling with how to handle this. I knew his conduct warranted dismissal, but firing him would also leave my daughter in a difficult situation. As a parent, I feel for her. I even suggested she divorce him, but she couldn't make up her mind. I, as a parent, wondered what she saw in him. But perhaps now she will finally make a decision. Thank you, Chairman. Steve, well, it seems that bad deeds don't go unpunished, do they? After that day, David was thoroughly questioned by the president's daughter, but managed to talk his way out and smooth things over temporarily. However, the president hired a private investigator to look into David's background. As a result, numerous affairs were uncovered. The president's daughter was furious. She lost all affection for David and divorced him, leaving him to pay a large sum in alimony. With the divorce settled, the president had no hesitation in firing David for his poor customer service, lack of remorse, and the significant loss he caused the bank. David lost his job and incurred a large debt to cover the alimony. He tried to rely on his affair partners, but they were only interested in his money. Once he was in debt, they had no use for him. He was swiftly abandoned by them all. The news of the substantial loss he caused Acacia Bank spread quickly to other banks, making it impossible for him to find another job in banking. He did manage to find a job at a small company in a different field. However, his arrogant attitude, flaunting his elite university background, remained unchanged, leading to his alienation from other employees. Feeling dissatisfied, he eventually quit. Focusing only on past glory without working hard in the present means he will never find happiness. One holiday, when I took my grandson to the park, I saw a man sitting on a bench hunched over, begging passers-by for food. "Do you have any food?" A passing couple gave him something. "Thank you." Even though he was wearing dirty clothes and his hair was disheveled, I recognized David immediately. If he had been able to say thank you like that when he was a teller, his life might have turned out differently, I thought. But it was a fitting end for someone who brought it upon himself. As for me, the Hamara Group is doing great. Our performance improves every quarter. Work has become more enjoyable, and I'm starting to reconsider my decision to step down as chairman. My wife is exasperated with me, though, about my casual clothes that David called shabby. It bothered me, so I asked my wife, "Do my everyday clothes really look that shabby?" Someone said something the other day, and it hurt my feelings. She chuckled and reassured me, "Not at all." I felt a bit relieved. Under President Brown's leadership, Acacia Bank has been steadily improving its services and regaining customers, gradually recovering the $390 million loss. That's President Brown. This project is being led by Branch Manager Johnson at the first branch. He is a skilled banker and will surely lead it to success. I had a recent errand at the first branch of Acacia Bank, and as soon as the automatic doors opened, I was greeted with a cheerful welcome. The atmosphere was very bright and pleasant. The grim and unpleasant atmosphere from David's time was nowhere to be found. Thanks to Mike's courteous service, my transaction went smoothly. President Brown and I still keep in touch as golf buddies, just as before. Even though I moved my corporate account to another bank after the recent incident, I am considering opening a new personal fixed deposit account at Acacia Bank. In fact, the stock I recently purchased has risen in price, yielding a significant dividend. Before putting it into a fixed deposit, I decided to take my grandson out for some sushi. My grandson still prefers just omelette and steamed shrimp sushi. As for me, I think I'll enjoy some seasonal fish. Good evening. Hey, welcome.